Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of The Snake Pit. I'm your host, Sunabat, and today I'll be talking about Terror is a Man. Released in 1959, Terror is a Man is a joint production between the Philippines and the United States. It is directed by Gerardo de Leon and co-directed by Eddie Romero. And funny enough, this is actually the first in the Blood Island series, which was, of course, directed by Gerardo de Leon and Eddie Romero, with the exception of the last film, Beast of Blood, which was only directed by Eddie Romero. But the other movies in this series are, like I said, Beast of Blood, Brides of Blood, and The Mad Doctor of Blood Island. And, now that I think about it, I think I might actually have a couple of the other movies in this series, so might have to dive into those because I really do want to see some of the other crazy shenanigans that happens on the other corners of Blood Island, because this was a wild movie. This was really interesting. Screenplay by Paul Harbour, but definitely based on The Island of Dr. Moreau by H.G. Wells. I can't remember if it was credited, but it totally is. Produced by Kane W. Lynn and Eddie Romero, starring Francis Lederer, Greta Thiessen, Richard Durr, Oscar Casey, and Flory Carlos. Cinematography by Emmanuel I. Rojas. Edited by Gervasio Santos. Music by Ariston Avello. Production company Lynn Romero Productions and Premiere Productions, and distributed by Valiant Films in the United States, EJ Fancy in the United Kingdom, Astral Films in Canada, and Hemisphere Pictures for the national re-release, and released on December 12, 1959. Unfortunately, I couldn't find an exact number in terms of budget or box office returns, but this is definitely a drive-in or grindhouse classic, so it's not something like the Universal movies. But I gotta say, I've never been a big fan of the Universal movies. I mean, that is probably blasphemy in the horror community, and I know there's probably a lot of people out there that are probably seething at that notion, but I personally don't think they're that fucking good. With the exception of maybe Dracula and Frankenstein, I'm not a big fan of them. I think, the guys who played the monsters were sick, but I just think the movies themselves, they kind of just look like shit. They're too Hollywood. They're too clean. For those of you who know anything about Hollywood, in the 1930s or more the 1940s when the code came in, shit got too squeaky clean. It's just not dangerous. And horror movies, crime movies, and all that shit, you're supposed to feel shocked. It's supposed to be gripping, dangerous. It's not supposed to be safe, sanitary shit. And the other thing too is with a lot of those movies, you can tell they're filmed on legitimate sets. They're not actually filmed on location. And I've always personally loved the Hammer movies and movies like these drive-in grindhouse ones way more than the Universal ones, because one minor thing is they're all filmed on fucking location, so they all look 1,000 times better. They don't look like cheap shit, and they just add risk to these movies. They make them fucking horror movies, whether it's something fucking cleavage, a little bit of blood, you know what I mean, a really fucking crazy looking monster that wouldn't fly by MPAA standard, whatever it is. These movies just seem to nail that pulp feel of these horror stories, whereas like I said, the Hollywood ones just didn't fucking do it. Now, even though I just took a wild shit on fucking Hollywood, I will give it to them. Although I do believe this was pre-code, there was an Island of Dr. Moreau movie they did that I recommend you guys check out, because again, it's not really talked about compared to stuff like Frankenstein, Dracula, The Mummy and stuff, but that would be The Island of Lost Souls, also starring Bela Lugosi. Great fucking movie. Check that out. And in the 1950s, around this time, 1959, they did put out some pretty good bug movies and giant killer animal movies, which I am a fan of those, but I don't know, for the most part, when it comes to human monsters or whatever, I don't really like Universal's take on it. But enough on that. Again, because this is a movie I don't see a lot of people talk about. I don't know how many people actually know about it. I don't want to spoil that much of it. I'm going to lightly graze over the plot as best as I can. There probably will be, a couple. I might, inadvertently spoil the ending because this is going to tie back to Frankenstein. But I'm also going to spoil a kind of gimmick that's a huge promotional thing to this. But other than that, I hope it's not enough to deter you from watching it. But then again, you know the drill. If you don't want it spoiled, pause it, watch it, and come back. But there was your warning, so here we go. The story begins with William Fitzgerald, the lone survivor of a shipwreck washing ashore on Blood Island. He's found by Dr. Charles Gerard and his assistant Walter Pereira. He's taken back to a medical facility and nursed back to health, where he meets the doctor's wife, Frances, and their assistants, Tiago, this young boy, and Celine. They happen to be assistants because their parents were killed by what's going to come up later. But essentially, a whole bunch of the natives on the island fear the doctor because, spoiler alert, he's working on turning a panther into a man. Now, the reason why he's doing this is because he wants to create a new species of mankind that's completely uninhibited by religion, politics, or any like personal stigma or opinion. It just wants to create something that can totally think on its own. And, this raises a lot of debates later on, like a lot of Frankenstein debates about, like, playing God, whether or not it's in fact a man or a creature or an animal in this case. Really interesting stuff. You got some interesting character dynamics because the wife clearly is like detached from him. She ends up cheating on him with William at some point, but she shows no interest in William really after the fact. She still even goes to help try to save Charles when the monster is on the loose. So really interesting, especially for 1959 standards, because in a lot of these movies women would either just faint at the sight of the creature, not really say much, or just kind of like just be background characters. It's kind of weird reading characters, but at the same time, it's a lot better than like the really wooden, sanitized 1940s shit where everyone's just a fucking good old Christian, like, and they all kind of look like ventriloquist puppets and shit, Walter is a piece of shit. I mean, it gets implied that he raped Celine or something because she's like absolutely terrified of him. He's a fucking alcoholic. And William, he's interesting because even though he's like our main character, the person that you kind of want to root for, he's kind of like a scumbag because like this doctor saves him, and the first thing he does is he tries to and successfully fucks his wife. So I mean, like, he's just kind of a fucking goofball piece of shit. But like, I mean, it's interesting. Like, you had really complicated characters, and basically, the monster, the reason why the locals fear it so much, it's not just the fact that it's experimenting, but sometimes when the creature gets loose, it actually gets into the village and it happens to kill a young girl. Freaks everyone out. They all leave. So the only people left on the island are Gerard, William, Francis, Walter, Selena, and Tiago, and the creature. And there's some really cool effects here. I loved how the creature looked. I mean, that's kind of why I got the DVD, was the way it just popped on the cover. More into that later. But essentially, here's our first spoiler. There's a scene with a little bit of gore, which is pretty cool for a movie from 1959. It's a surgery scene. Can't remember if it was a heart or something. It was something near the chest, but it gets cut, and that's where this bell comes in. And this is kind of like the gimmick, almost like it's only a movie, or like kind of reminiscent of the skeleton flying in House on Haunted Hill. But it's a warning for people who are, really sensitive to gore and shit, that they could leave or close their eyes or something. Pretty cool. They managed to put that back in here. But yeah, there was the one spoiler, and eventually, like, we kind of learned that, like, the creature does show some passiveness, at least towards the doctor, and specifically towards Frances, because she really does not like what's going on. Apparently, this panther had been experimented on and had multiple surgeries, painful surgeries at that, for like the process of 2 years, because that's how long they've been on the island. And the creature doesn't show no hostility towards her, but Walter fucking hates this thing. He thinks it's a monster. He beats the shit out of it with like a wooden block. So finally, when the creature does have a chance to escape, it goes ballistic. It kills Walter instantly. Unfortunately, Selena, the innocent girl, is killed in the process too when the creature escapes. And then it's up to the remaining people, minus Tiago, to go look for it and, stop it. The doctor wants to catch it. The wife just wants to fucking leave. And Walter fucking Walter Williams, same shit. But William, like, she's just in a desperate simp attempt, is like, I'm going to kill the monster and save you, and we're going to get out of here. So, like, everyone's just going to try to find this fucking thing. And eventually it squares off on a cliffside where, spoiler alert, it kills the doctor, kind of like Frankenstein's monster, gets shot by William and staggers off. And then it's implied that Tiago, ships it away in the only lifeboat where its fate is remained unknown. Kind of like Frankenstein's monster going to the Arctic. It just drifts off to God knows where. And, yeah, that's the first installment on the Blood Island series. And like I said, that's the mark of a good movie, I think, because this made me want to see the other Blood Island movies. Like, is it also human hybrids? Is it like fucking zombies? How crazy does this shit get? This was a fun movie, and like, these 50s movies are great because they're not very long. So if you got like the attention span of a goldfish, these things fucking fly right by. They're really fun too, like, of course they can be corny at times, but like, this was just fun. I don't know what else to say about it. Like, don't expect something extremely deep, because this is the same story that has been told a million times before. I mean, every kind of mad scientist movie, but where this one's unique is like the creature design was fucking dope, I think. I think it's cool because, again, this is filmed in the Philippines. It's filmed on an island. The whole thing just added to it. Like, it was just a really good all around put together production. And I wish I knew what the budget was, because compare this to a Universal movie, I think this blows it out of the water. And it says more horrifying than Frankenstein and more terrifying than Dracula. Like, I don't know about that, because those are the only two Universal monster movies I personally like, but I think it stands tall with those, because this is definitely better than The Wolfman, in my opinion. This is certainly better than The Creature of the Black Lagoon. I don't know, man. Like, I don't know when it was like, because like the conversations about like playing God or is this a man or a monster is cool, but it doesn't take up the whole movie. You get some pretty cool kills and some pretty good shocks and scares, you know what I mean? And that's what a monster movie is all about. It's like pushing the edge. I don't know when it became the thing to make all these monster movies, these deep emotional fucking things. It's like that Del Toro fish fucking Creature from the Black Lagoon weird movie. Like, when did monster movies become that? Just show me some cool effects, show me a cool creature, don't go too heavy on the social commentary, and let's fuck some shit up. Like, that's what a monster movie should be, and this movie delivered, man. Like, I don't know, I'm praising it like crazy. This is, again, another reason why I fucking love Severin, because they just put out so much wild shit, man. Like, from classic black and white drive-in type movies to, like, their really crazy Intervision shit, you know what I mean? The shot-on-video stuff. Like, you know, they got some more recent stuff, like Skin Deep. They got fucking classic Animal Attack movies, like fucking Road Warrior ripoffs, like action movies, zombie, like anything you can think of, they got it. So if you ever want to build, like, a sick roster of, like, exploitation movies, go with them, because they're not super expensive and the roster is just insane. You're never going to get like too much of the same thing. Now, when I started collecting Severin DVDs, I was getting too much of the same thing. I was purposely seeking out like splatter movies and slasher movies and video nasty movies. But then I was like, you know what? I want to take a stab at these other movies. I picked up stuff like Strike Commando, Siege, like, you know, just shit I wouldn't normally get, because even though I do like action movies, when I'm looking for Severin, Troma, or anything like that, I'm mainly going for gore or horror movies. But Severin is the reason why now when I look at these companies, I kind of expand my horizons and I get a little bit of things that I normally wouldn't get, you know what I mean? And this was a cool one. Again, like I said, I'm a sucker for 1950s movies. I don't know if it's the poster art, if it's the cheesiness, or, you know, the uniqueness of the monsters, but like there were so many coming out that you really like, you can just take your pick. You don't have to watch the same old shit. You can just dig through the barrel and find something unique, like Terror is a Man. And you know, fucking Gerardo de Leon, he's a cool director too, because I have this other movie I didn't realize was by him. I believe it's called Curse of the Vampires. I could be wrong. I think it's from 1966. So seeing his connection to this is really cool. I just like, oh man, I don't know what to say. All these movies are great. These directors were really cool with what they had and whatever, like, you know, they did to put together. They made it work. It was just amazing. I'm not going to fucking give this a perfect 10, because it certainly wasn't. It's cheesy. It's not 100% like perfect, you know, but for what it was, I'd probably have to give this about a 7, man. Like, this was a really fun movie. And if you like monster movies, you like stuff from the 50s, if you're a Severin collector, you definitely got to add this to your collection. Fucking amped to see the rest of the Blood Island series. If you guys are, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. To all our new subscribers, thank you very much for joining the channel. We appreciate it. It's always cool to see the audience grow, and I'm just happy to get more shit out for you guys to check out, because I don't know, like, I just feel like certain things, more people should know about it. Like, I'm kind of like sick of like YouTube channels posting the same old shit all the time. So hopefully this was unique. I'm gonna go burn a bunch of kush now and maybe jump into the fucking rest of Blood Island. So peace.